lawyer and also Dr. Joel tweet. Hashtag Farage on GB News, and we will get to your answers and your thoughts later. So I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Paul Turner, immigration lawyer, and also Dr. Joel Grogan. I'm going to turn, Paul, to you first. Thanks for being with me again in the studio. We talked about this just a couple of weeks ago when the Supreme Court decision came out. I remember you saying to me, I asked you the question, were you surprised? And you simply said, no, not at all. So, look, the Home Secretary is now saying he's dealt with all the concerns, he thinks, of the Supreme Court. Apparently he hasn't offered them any more money. I can't actually believe they haven't asked for any more money, but that's their question. What do you think about this? You've heard it. Can this work?
Well, I think the starting point has to be, I wonder whether Mr. Cleverly has actually read the Supreme Court decision. Because
Goodness me.
Well, the Supreme Court decision says that Rwanda is not safe on the ground, and that's due to the fact it doesn't have a functioning judicial system for dealing with asylum seekers. So simply there was the memorandum of understanding that said that all would be wonderfully well in Rwanda, and then looking at the evidence, the Supreme Court said, well, it's not, and there is a chance of people being sent to other countries where they're at risk. And having regard to the fact that the Rwandans, when they took people from Israel, quietly bussed them over the border to Uganda, that's a reasonable doubt.
But is that the key point of he's saying about the new treaty, is that they can't do that? They can't send any of these asylum seekers anywhere else except back to the UK, is that right? Well,
that's what the treaty says, but the question is, and the factual question that has to be evaluated is, simply putting it in having a nice jolly over to Rwanda and a nice picture ceremony, signing a few documents, does that actually make Rwanda safe or not? Now, if the Rwandans don't change their system, don't implement an appeal system, and continue to ship people over the border at night when no one's looking, then it's not safe, no matter whatever they say. And Rwanda sadly doesn't have the best human rights record. I know the Home Secretary seems to think that they've been getting an awfully hard time. But perhaps if they didn't treat asylum seekers so badly, they wouldn't be.
But that's quite interesting because actually, I mean, there are UN reports that I've read that says that they made huge progress in Africa dealing with asylum seekers from other African nations. So it feels to me there's a bit of contradiction. But you've put the nub of it, the fact that the Supreme Court said that it wasn't a safe country, and your concern is that this new arrangement, this new treaty agreement between the UK and Rwanda doesn't appear to deal with that fundamental point from the Supreme Court.
Well, not unless the UK government goes over there and establishes a camp, such as the Italians have done, and polices the camp and puts workers in there to essentially process the applicants abroad subject to a reasonable standard, then there's going to be grave doubts that the Rwandans will say or do anything to get the £100,000 per asylum seeker that they've been promised, and so that they don't have to give back the 140 million quid.
And just finally, if this doesn't work, what's the alternative solution? Or actually, have they just got to abandon Rwanda?